This is a moment in Jewish history. The Israel Philharmonic Orchestra today is world-renowned. Now in its 87th season, it came from humble beginnings. The orchestra was the idea of Bronisław Huberman. Born in Częstochowa, then Russia, now Poland, he excelled at violin as a child and grew to become a famous leading violinist who toured all over Europe. In 1929, Huberman visited the land of Israel, then under the control of the British and called Palestine. He conceived of the idea to create an orchestra there. As the Nazis began to rise to power in Germany, they began removing Jewish performers from orchestras. No Jewish music or Jewish musicians were allowed. Huberman decided that he would get these newly out-of-work performers for his own orchestra. It was called the Palestine Symphony Orchestra, and composed of mostly musicians from Germany, Poland, Austria, and other European countries where World War II was heating up. These musicians, their spouses, and children, over 800 people, were able to escape war-torn Europe. The orchestra gave its first performance in 1936. Huberman stated at the time that it would constitute a historic landmark, both in the struggle against Nazism and in the upbuilding of Palestine. The conductor for the first performance was none other than the famous Arturo Toscanini. Born in Italy, Toscanini protested the rise of the fascist government there and refused to conduct a Nazi German-led music festival, even when Nazi leader Adolf Hitler personally asked him to. He chose instead to go to Tel Aviv, where he conducted the debut of Huberman's orchestra to a sold-out crowd. The orchestra also featured many local composers such as Paul Ben-Haim. Born in Germany as Paul Frankenberger, he was an accomplished conductor. He served in the German army in World War I and was almost killed in a gas attack on the French front. As his music career grew, so did the Nazi Party. It was hard for him to find work, and one Nazi newspaper attacked a performance of his, stating, "It is not appropriate to perform music by a Jewish composer." Paul Frankenberger moved to the land of Israel in 1933 and changed his name to Paul Ben-Haim. Many of his pieces were based on Jewish themes, such as The Sweet Psalmist of Israel, The Vision of a Prophet, and Hymn from the Desert. Performing his work was Pnina Salzman. Born in Tel Aviv, Pnina Salzman was among the new generation of Israeli-born musicians whom the orchestra attracted and whom Bronisław Huberman recruited. She went on to become a music professor, touring the world and teaching students for decades. In 2006, she was awarded the prestigious Israel Prize for her lifetime in music education. The judges wrote, "Pnina Salzman can be seen as a pioneer. She was early to understand that an artist's identity is rooted in the culture of their birthplace. Her deep Israeliness was a source of inspiration for many composers who came from Europe to a new and unfamiliar country and found here a performing artist at an international level." During World War II, the Palestine Symphony Orchestra and its Jewish refugee musicians performed in 140 concerts for Allied soldiers fighting against the Axis powers led by Germany. This included a performance for soldiers of the Jewish Brigade in Egypt in 1944. Advertisements and tickets called it in English the Palestine Orchestra and in Hebrew the Eretz Yisrael Orchestra. The State of Israel became independent from the British in 1948, and the orchestra changed its name to Hatzimorat HaPhilharmonit HaYisraelit, or Israel Philharmonic Orchestra. It played Hatikva, Israel's national anthem, when David Ben-Gurion declared independence. During the War of Independence, the orchestra played in Beersheva days after the battles there for 5,000 Israel Defense Force soldiers, led by a young conductor from the United States named Leonard Bernstein. In the 1950s, the orchestra's home, Heichal HaTarbut, the cultural center in Tel Aviv, was built. Leonard Bernstein returned to conduct the inaugural concert with famous pianist Arthur Rubinstein. In the 1960s, a young Indian conductor named Zubin Mehta began his relationship with the Israel Philharmonic, which lasts until today. During the Six-Day War of 1967, Mehta was away on tour when the war broke out. He insisted on returning to Israel to conduct concerts. He boarded the last plane allowed to land, one filled with ammunition, to show his solidarity. After the victory, a special concert was held on the previously besieged Mount Scopus. In the Gulf War of 1991, Mehta again skipped several concert dates to conduct in Israel when Saddam Hussein began shooting rockets. Joining him was American violinist Isaac Stern. Because of the threat of poison gas from Iraq, Israeli civilians were instructed to carry gas masks with them wherever they went. During a performance of the Israel Philharmonic at the Jerusalem Theater, the air raid siren went off, and the audience and musicians put on their gas masks. But rather than cancel the concert, Isaac Stern stepped on stage and performed a solo rendition of a Bach adagio. In 2019, Mehta retired after 50 years as music director of the Israel Philharmonic. He retains his relationship with the orchestra. After the fall of the Soviet Union and the mass immigration of Russian Jews, a significant number of them went on to become members of the orchestra, joining the Israeli-born performers. The Israel Philharmonic is one of the many cultural institutions born before the state's independence that continues to shine a light today. This has been a moment in Jewish history. For questions or comments and past shows, you can visit benbresky.substack.com. Thank you to all the listeners, and Shalom.